For inviting me to ptosis. After some very good demonstrations on how to do good ptosis surgery, I am going to now share with you what happens if you don't listen to what we've been taught and don't perform surgery in the correct way. I'm going to be talking about the complications of ptosis surgery. Complications are a part of a surgeon's life, so rather than getting discouraged or disheartened, we should actually study these cases and try and understand where we went wrong so that we don't do it again. We need to distinguish complications from sequelae, and that is where the role of counseling comes in. We do know that whatever ptosis surgery we do, there is going to be lid lag, and it is better if we talk to the patient before surgery, especially in the cases where we are expecting more, large resections, resurgeries, sling surgery. And also if we counsel the patient, the relatives, when it's a child, and explain to them that this is going to happen, it is most in the first week and is going to get better with time, we can make both the patient and the surgeon more happy post-operatively. Now, when we talk about the complications, this is a cosmetic surgery. It is really, we should never ever have any functional disability which is arising from a cosmetic surgery, and a visual compromise is completely unacceptable. So there are many complications. I'm going to just emphasize undercorrection, which is the commonest, and exposure keratopathy or dry eye, which is the most dangerous functionally speaking. Undercorrection will end up with a residual or a phase ptosis. It is the most common. You need to distinguish it from the edema of immediate edema of surgery, usually seen in the moderate to severe ptosis with a poor LPS action. Why we get it could be a wrong choice of procedure, could be problems with the technique, an inadequate resection, or sometimes in the slings, a suture slippage. So this is one of my earlier cases where there was an acquired ptosis with a history of trauma. Thinking that this was naturally a normal LPS, I did a large LPS resection with absolutely no correction, much to my disappointment and his. 6 months later, I followed it up with a silicone sling and the patient did much better. Again, a choice of procedure, this was a recurrent senile ptosis. Having done a plication the first time, this time I did a sling. Though the correction was adequate, but on lifting the brow and using the frontalis, there was a much better correction. So probably I should have added a brow lift with it so that the patient would have not had to stress on his frontalis so much. Now, how do we prevent undercorrection? It's in our planning and preparation, and Dr. Vishnu has already described very nicely the points that should be emphasized. It's very important to distinguish between congenital and acquired, and one of the ways is the palpebral aperture in the down gaze, because the way an acquired ptosis, the LPS, is going to behave is very different from congenital, and the amount of ptosis LPS action very important. In your surgical technique, we need to identify the LPS correctly, and the pad of fat is a very important marker, and that has been already described by the previous speakers. Amount of resection, as some of the audience were also asking, I think it's a very individual. There isn't any one rule. Everybody decides what works well in their hands. I do in a congenital, I will leave the lid at the limbus because I know it's going to come down by 0.5 to 1 mm. And in acquired, I know it's going to go up because it is actually a normal muscle. I leave it a little bit below where I want it eventually to be. This is another case where there was a slippage or a breakage of the sling. The next day post-op, there's absolutely no correction. You can see that the sling is actually broken and slipped right through. So it needs to be redone. Overcorrection is very rare in congenital ptosis, much more chances in acquired. You must distinguish it from the apparent overcorrection. In the early post-op, in a congenital, it looks like an overcorrection. In the late post-op, it will come down to the normal place. Now, the management of overcorrection, if it is a mild, you can just do massage, early suture removal, give traction sutures. Sometimes, like in this case, where it was what I thought was a congenital ptosis, and I did I did a plication, but I got a lot of overcorrection, and needed to then do a resurgery with a tenotomy. So prevention, the quiet cases are more predictable. Plication is a good procedure because it is reversible. The use of adjustable sutures, like Dr. Neelam has said, is also very important. And you should watch out for these congenital aponeurotic ptosis, which seem to be like a levator problem, but it is more to do with the aponeurosis. Notching asymmetric contours are because of the placement of the sutures, unequal tightening, and we just need to make sure that we pass the sutures at equal lengths, both on the tarsal plate and when we are tightening them. And because if they are unequal either in placement or in tightness, we are going to end up with notching, like in this case. Lid fold abnormalities is something which you must keep in mind, because often the correction is good, but because of the lid fold abnormality, we are not able to get a good symmetric and dynamic lid fold. So to prevent that, we must mark the lid crease before infiltration, match it with the other eyelid. In the sling, we usually need to pass the sutures close to the lid margin, otherwise you don't get a good lid fold. And in severe ptosis, you should excise the skin muscles so that we don't get bunching and you get a good lid fold. I'll just be quick. This is something which has to completely be avoided. So lubrication is very important. Check for the bells. Keep the frost suture longer in case there is poor bells or it is a child and we're not sure that the lubrication, the child will use it. Avoid drafts, explain squeezing exercises to the patient. And most of this is for the first week, so one has to be very, very careful in the first week and not allow situations like this to appear. Sling complications have already been mentioned. Extrusion and infection is there in the synthetic materials. And in the fascia lata and silicone sling, we must bury the knots and anchor the knots to prevent slippage. This is a case where there was extrusion and it kept extruding. I had to actually remove it to another side. Somehow the tissue just wouldn't heal. So you must prevent by burying the knots in a tunnel. So to summarize, we need to do a careful pre-op evaluation, good planning and good surgery, and assess carefully. Always keep the cornea protected and don't hesitate to go in and fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anita. We are really